Are all Paraguayan women untrustworthy? This is the question we're going to answer in today's video, and I'm going to share some personal experiences with you to support some of the statements that I will make inside this video. The good thing about dating in Paraguay is that you can actually form a long-term relationship that could last for a lifetime. Let's start this video with an experience of a personal friend of mine. I'm not going to reveal his nationalities. One nationality will obviously be revealed because he's half Paraguayan. The other I'm not going to reveal because I don't want to share this personal information, but he's an incredibly nice guy. You know, the kind of friend that you read about in the textbook. He's a textbook definition of a friend, so he's a really good guy. And his mother's from Paraguay. His father is from a Western country, and so obviously he's half Paraguayan and half something else. What's great about him is actually his parents. His parents met in Paraguay when his father was actually quite wealthy, and his mother's from the countryside, so she was a very simple woman. So you would say like, hey, you know, this woman, she went after a rich guy, she was only after his money and didn't even consider his personality, didn't make any effort understanding his culture. It was all about the money. This is the typical, the stereotype statement that you hear from people who have no experience dating overseas, who believe that, you know, all people are the same. It is different. What is great about Paraguayan culture, and this is something that he actually confirmed when I spoke to him last week, he told me the following. He said, Gerald, I don't think that my father's experience is typical. However, I will say that Paraguayan women love their families and they're willing to die for their family. He pointed this out. He highlighted this very important statement. And here's what happened. They got together. His father was wealthy. You know, for Paraguayan standards, his father was actually very, very rich. They got together, they decided to get married, and they ended up living in the Western country that I'm not going to reveal, and also part-time in Paraguay. So they got the best of both worlds, right? They would come back to Paraguay to vacation a few weeks or a few months a year and spend the rest of the time in the Western country where education is just better, right? They can get much higher quality education in that country. And he told me then there was a time during their marriage when his father was not doing very well financially, and you would think that most women would actually leave, especially if they got married and there was a pretty big wealth gap. This did not happen in my friend's case. The two actually remained together. She did not divorce him. She didn't take all his money and run away and got into a new relationship with an even wealthier person. No, it didn't happen. She actually ended up staying with him, and I think why this happened, he hasn't really told me about it, was because the relationship was just built on the right foundation. It was built on trust. And he found a woman where he knew that she was going to stay with him. And of course he could say, well, there are many variables and sometimes women still leave and maybe this was just a fluke. Maybe. But some women stay, even in Western countries. When the guy loses everything, some women decide to stay. So you tell me, what's the difference? I believe the difference is how you treat your woman. If you treat her well, chances of you maintaining a high quality relationship and marriage are much greater than if your attitude changes during difficult times, and especially if you decide to treat her differently than you treated her when you initially started dating. Because how you behave during the initial phases of dating is what the woman will base the marriage on. And I've heard this from many friends. I'm not married myself, but I can just see the patterns that develop in certain people and how certain patterns, and this is also true, I'm sure, in Paraguayan culture, how certain patterns may make a woman leave the guy who she actually fell in love with. This is very common in all countries. If you treat your woman well and if you maintain a good positive attitude even during bad times, things will likely work out. You can control certain things you cannot control, and certainly there are women who will leave you during challenging times. But the question is, what was the foundation of the relationship? Was the foundation really a long-lasting bond, or was it predicated on superficial standards? If your relationship was predicated on superficial standards, it will very likely end if you run out of money. If and when you run out of money, the superficial relationship that you entered, that you crafted, will ultimately come to an end. It is a matter of fact. It is true in more cases than not. Anyway, so my friend's parents, they stayed together and they're happily married already for many decades. They live in both countries and everything's working out perfectly for them. So is it a fluke? I don't think so, because I know many more people with similar experiences dating overseas. It is not what happens to you, it is how you respond to what happens to you that ultimately defines your destiny in life. I truly believe that. Bad things can happen to good people, but it's how we respond and how we solve the issues that we are presented. This is everything. All right, let me talk about my personal experiences dating in Paraguay. I have not entered a serious relationship in a sense that the relationship started with the intention of marriage. I met women, I went out with them. With some of them it went further. However, I did not find the right person yet. Many people who you talk to and you ask them, hey, why didn't you get married yet? You've been in so many relationships, or you have met so many people, or you have this social status. Why haven't you gotten married yet? Oftentimes people would say, I just haven't met the right person yet. For me to marry someone, I would either have to date someone of the same social class, so there are fewer thoughts about her wanting more from me than she could get on her own, or B, I'd marry someone where I don't disclose my social status, my net worth, until we've been together for a certain period of time. This would be another option, and maybe this is the option I'm going to choose because a lot of the, upper class women that you get to meet, they don't want to have children, or maybe they already have children, they're taken, so it's often very hard to find someone that is compatible with your life goals and visions. But one thing that I noticed in Paraguay is that women are incredibly approachable. They really are incredibly approachable, and they are very eager to know the foreigner. Even if the foreigner doesn't speak a single word of Spanish, there is this curiosity factor, because in Paraguay you are actually a catch. Are you a catch in Florida? Are you a catch in California? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on your looks, depends on your social status. Of course, it also depends on your game, all of that, right? But oftentimes, most guys are not a catch in their native country. I mean, especially if they're middle class, right? To be a catch, you have to be different. You have to bring a different set of values to the table. So what I realized is that Paraguayan women, they really value the friendship, and they really value giving all the love and care that they have to make you feel welcome. That was my experience. Maybe my experience was better than the experience of other people for the simple reason that I believe speaking the local language makes a big difference in the communication and, more importantly, how you're perceived in the eyes of the locals. And this isn't just about dating Paraguayan women, it's also about having conversations with Paraguayan guys. If they see that you make an effort to integrate, that you're interested in learning the local language, sometimes I would ask, how do you say this in Warani? And very often actually they'd say, I only teach you the bad words in Warani. I'm not going to teach you simple stuff like this. If you want to learn Warani, I'm going to teach you how to curse in Warani. Anyway, that's the answer I get oftentimes because I can speak Spanish, even though the Paraguayan Spanish is a mix between the Spanish from the Iberian Peninsula and the Warani, right? The local tribe language. It's different. However, if you speak Spanish, you will have a much easier time understanding the Paraguayans in Paraguay, even though sometimes even to me, and I'm sure to many native speakers that are even from nearby countries like Argentina and Chile, might be hard to pick up on their accent, on their dialect. It's kind of challenging. But I noticed that Paraguayan women, if you show them the utmost respect that you can give a person, because that's what they give you, and it's all about reciprocity. You want to have a reciprocal conversation and relationship with someone. And especially when we're talking about people from, and some people don't like when I say this, but it is a collectivist society in the sense that the well-being of the family and the community is above monetary gain. It's how it is in Paraguay. And if you come to Paraguay from the United States, Canada, you quickly realize this is not Canada. This is not America. Paraguayan values are old school, they're ancient, and many are still intact today. However, I'm going to say that the modernization and Americanization of Asuncion, Paraguay, we're talking about very specific neighborhoods in Asuncion, Paraguay, has left a change in attitude among many millennials and Generation C Paraguayans. And I have spotted this already, when I first was in Paraguay, I have spotted this, that certain areas in Asuncion feel very different. And the same is also true when you go to the countryside. The mentality is very different. The question is now, what do you want? Who do you want to form a long-lasting relationship with? Do you want to be with a traditional, ancient behaving girl? This sounds kind of odd and sounds like scary at the same time. If you want that, go to the countryside. And the countryside is where it's at. If you want to be with a woman who can be a great caregiver, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I'm just saying that many Western men, many Western expats, Western immigrants, they want that kind of relationship, and I can totally resonate with their thinking, because it's very difficult to come by in Western societies where women, you know, and men too, it's not just about women, it's about men too. Let's talk about us, where we value our own individual well-being more than the well-being of our family and the community. That's just a matter of fact. You know, oh, you want to play PlayStation. Oh, you want to work more hours so you can make more money, so you can buy a nicer car, so you can afford nicer clothing, right? We all want these things. However, if you're not on that side, if you want to go to a place because you want to experience life way back in time, I highly recommend you to try out the countryside. There are several cities that I recommend. I've done a video on it. You can go to Encarnacion, you can go to Ciudad del Este. There are many more cities. If you want to go up to El Chaco, go there. There are many great places where you can find traditional women, but don't be fooled. If you want to date in the countryside, things work very differently. Women are more conservative, and they certainly won't let you into their tribe so easily unless you have convinced them that you are, first of all, a great catch, and that you take the relationship seriously. They don't want to be with a playboy, so certain things to be considered. In the city, it's very different everywhere. In the city, you're looking at a very high turnover of residents. You know, you have a lot of people from Brazil, from Argentina, from nearby countries. You have a lot of Paraguayans that kind of pivot between neighborhoods, right? So you have a much higher turnover than in a place like Encarnacion that is just more localized. Some of the nicest women that I have met in Asuncion were actually from the countryside. Yes, believe it or not, they were not from Asuncion. This is something that may be accidental, I don't know. Don't get me wrong, I've met some really nice women that are from Asuncion as well. However, some of the nicest ones I've met actually turned out that they were not from Asuncion, which came as a bit of a surprise to me because I expected that all Paraguayans are the same. And don't get me wrong, some are no better than others. There are good and bad people everywhere, but it's just my personal experience. And maybe the data that I have collected is not sufficient at this point to make this, you know, broad judgment. So I'm not making any judgment here, I'm just saying that that's been my personal experience. Where can you date in Asuncion, Paraguay? I highly recommend some of the cultural events that are taking place in the old downtown of Asuncion. Not only to get a peek inside what the local culture is about, such as the cultural norms, communication, learning about humor, sarcasm, because there is sarcasm in Paraguay as much as it is present in many countries. You have to learn about it because it is not the same sarcasm, black humor, that we have in the West. There are different sarcasms that Paraguayans use, and so that you have to learn through engaging in the local community. So go to one of the cultural events, and they're happening during many months of the year. There are certain theaters that you can visit. I highly recommend it. The admission fee is not overly expensive. Go there, you will meet people. There's gonna be breaks, and even better if you can go there with a friend or two. Ideally, you want them to be Paraguayans, or if you want to go there with us, we can do that as well, and we will show you more about the local community and cultural norms. Then second, the outdoor area at Mariscal Mall. It's open air, it's outdoors, it's great if you want to have a drink. Typically it's very busy on the weekends, so Fridays and Saturdays. A lot of people go there, and a lot of women go there to date foreign men. It's a fantastic place if you have a hard time starting a conversation in a regular place or during a regular time. Oftentimes when people have a drink or two, they kind of loosen up, and it's easier for them to engage in a new culture. That's what I recommend. Go there. If you don't want to drink, then obviously you can still go there. Don't have a drink, have a soft drink, whatever you want to do. But it's a great place because, like I said, Paraguayan women go there to hunt for foreigners. But it's not just about that. You can make friendships. You will meet a lot of really cool people. And I have met people while I was sitting there with friends of mine, and it was a much more natural conversation than if you just walk up to someone at a bookstore. And 3, sports. sports. This is nothing new. Get into sports, okay? You can play tennis, soccer, paddle, ping pong. Just get the blood pumping. You will meet so many people, and sometimes it's not just the people who you meet through the sport, it's then who they introduce you to. This is very important. I've met a lot of people through introductions of friends. Do that. It will take time, and what I always recommend is following your passion, following your heart. Go with what you're interested in, because making friendships will be more natural than if you do something completely new, which could also work out, but then you decide to discontinue it. And oftentimes, you know how it works with people, they want to see you multiple times before they get comfortable talking to you. And this is, you know, maybe less true in Paraguayan culture because people are just very approachable. However, if you do that, if you attend sports regularly with the same group of people, you will make many amazing friendships. And who knows, maybe a relationship will result from it. What is your experience dating Paraguayan women? And if you have not dated in Paraguay yet, have you dated in nearby countries like Argentina, Brazil, Bolivia, and Chile? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're interested in obtaining a residence permit in Paraguay, please contact us now. You should see our website displayed right on the screen. We look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you for watching.